What's included in the CMA? That's important to know as well. It provides a variety of comparable information about each property. Included in a report is details on the subject property and its comps. They typically include a map of all the properties to comparing locations, some direct information on each of the properties, MLS data, tax records data, addresses, status. We want to know if it's a closed sale or a pending sale, or just simply fishing out there as an active sale. General information: do the bedrooms match up, the square footage match up, garages, year built, days on market, things of this nature as well. In order for this CMA to be useful to the consumer, it should ideally only reference recent and similar or substantially similar properties. Now, while each property is truly unique, each differs in their exact locations at the very minimum, most are to be comparable to most of the factors as possible. Now, sometimes a property just doesn't have any great comparables, or there may not be enough recent sold comps. So we have to do a little more estimating, so to speak. Now, typically we want to compare properties that have sold or closed within 3 to 6 months, unless there's not enough data to work with. If there's not, we can go 9, 12, 18, or 24 months being used. But the information isn't quite as beneficial because it's older in age. So instead of looking farther back in time, sometimes the search criteria may need to be altered a bit. For example, a neighborhood-wise search may include better comps than just a radius search from the property. Sometimes you just got to expand the area to see if you can't find similar homes. Importantly, we want to make sure we're comparable to substantial similar properties. If the subject home is a 4, 2.5, 3-car garage, we don't want to be comparing it to 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage, because they're not actually comparable. Other factors may come into play as well. For example, most homes are selling for $100,000, but otherwise a comparable banco foreclosure recently sold for $70,000. Distressed properties like this may be excluded from the CMA due to not being in the same similar sales condition. It's just not the same like property. Now, within a very small area, there may be a wide variety of size built-in conditions and amenities, which is why recent activity and location are not always sufficient. We need to compare to other comparable properties as well. Now, what can a good CMA tell you as a consumer, as a homeowner or a buyer? Well, let's start with what a CMA isn't. A good CMA is not a crystal ball prediction of what your home will sell for or what it'll be worth in the future or what it's worth today to buy. Instead, it's a compilation of real estate information for your reference only. You may use these reports to draw different conclusions from those of realtors because your different points of view, motivations, experiences, things of this nature may be in line with your expectations or may be significantly different. If your CMA is significantly different than your expectations, make sure you give it a thorough look through, make notes, and share your opinions. Living in the area for the past 10 years may provide additional insights that a realtor may not be informed of or may have forgotten to account when you're working them in two. Now, assuming the CMA is well prepared, all the parties reference it will be able to use the information to estimate their home value based on a price per square foot calculation. For example, the average among the comps is $100 a square foot. You have a 2,000 square foot house. Your property may be estimated around $200,000. And typically it's going to express in a range of something like $194,000 to $206,000. That would be like a plus minus 3%. Now, square footage is a time-honored way to estimate, because not only be competing to similar size square footage, bedrooms and things, and otherwise comparable properties. If the comps have significant difference, because they were the best we could find, such there was wide varieties in sizes of lots, otherwise everything is similar, then the evaluation adjustment should be made per comp to change the square footage per comp and overall average. Note, each comp and adjustment should only be compared to the subject property, not to another comp. All in all, a good CMA can provide you with some of all the following information. What homes like yours are actually selling or sold for. How long homes like yours have taken to sell. Days on market prior to accepting an offer. The difference between the seller's original listing or asking prices and their actual close price. We in the industry like that called the list to sale ratio. Lastly, what list price similar properties were at before they didn't sell. So we look at the expireds and withdrawings, where they had a certain price point, just never sold on there, or did they come down to a certain price before it became attractive to the buyers. All right, I got a good idea what a CMA is. Now we get to talk about the big gun in the item with the world of internet and all the information that is out available. And this would be the section I like to call CMAs versus AVMs. AVM is an automated value model. Most commonly known to the public is a Zillow zestimate. There are many others. So, both CMA and appraisals are created manually. They may be automatically generated and then manually reviewed and tweaked versus an AVM, which is a completely automated valuation model. It's a computer-generated dollar amount intended to provide a quick reference of the valuation or estimation of price. While CMAs and appraisals and AVMs are all estimates, AVMs are often criticized for being significantly inaccurate. It's not as accurate as a CMA because there's no human oversight, because there's no telling which properties were included as comps and how much each comp influenced in the AVM's property estimate. I'm going to cover some numbers from Zillow's estimate. They are the most famous AVM out there. There are dozens more, but everybody knows Zillow's estimate. And going back a couple years, Zillow's self-reported accuracy shows some very interesting details. It shows that less than 50% of the time, a little under 45% of the time, their zestimate is within 5% of the selling price, true value. Over 70% of the time, it's just barely within 10% of the sales price. 86% of the time, it's going to be within 20% of the actual sales price. And they estimate a margin of error of about 5 to 6% on those numbers as well. Now, there aren't any statistics for CMA's accuracy because each one is uniquely prepared. But no AVM should be considered accurate. The A in AVM stands for automated, not accurate. These differences are minor. Take, for example, a 5% difference may not sound that significant, but it is when dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars. For example, if I told you your house was worth $170,000 plus or minus 5%, that means your house is somewhere exactly 161.5 between 178.5. That's really close to saying somewhere between $160,000 and $180,000, which you probably already knew as a homeowner. And this 5% or 17% or $17,000 range ends up being accurate less than half the time per Zillow's own reporting. Why? That's not great. Now, while AVMs are not pointless, they definitely have the place in the industry, and I use them regularly to help create a more accurate CMA. Overall, we've noticed though, public AVMs typically hurt the public more than they help because it's just too tempting for buyers and sellers to go look online and to latch onto when they see a seemingly definitive dollar amount as gospel. That's it. That's what this house is worth, good, bad, or indifferent. So to kind of summarize real quick, An appraisal costs thousands of dollars and is very detailed and gives an exact opinion of value and is the most comprehensive. A well-prepared CMA is considerably more reliable than an AVM. And none of us would be sad if all AVMs got turned off tomorrow, because you really need a professional realtor to look at the property objective, look at the local sales data in addition to the AVM data, and come up with a real accurate estimation that you can get with the data that's out there, so you can have an accurate guide on referencing what a property may or may not be worth. So that brings me to the last part. How do you actually obtain a CMA? Well, I'm going to be glad that you asked, because I'm going to put all the details in the bottom of this post for you to have a link to free CMA websites that I provide, all that fun stuff. But basically what you need to do is get a hold of a realtor. They usually provide them at no charge. Now, since they can take quite a bit of time to prepare, it takes me anywhere from 20 minutes to a couple hours. Realtors usually only prefer to provide CMAs for properties you're really interested in. We provide CMAs to homeowners whenever they're considering selling to help them determine a reasonable listing price, and buyers reference our CMA for when evaluating purchase decisions. We also may provide CMAs and other market metrics like absorption rates to sellers periodically throughout their time on the market to help understand their property's competition, i.e. other properties buyers may have been considering in addition to yours. So those are all things that professional realtors will apply. So that brings us to an end.